Welcome back, my friends. Another exciting day in Empires and Puzzles has brought us a brand new portal once more. This time, the Super Elemental portal has returned in Empires and Puzzles, and with it comes 2 new heroes this time around. I don't know if they think that their timetable is just taking too long with these elementals, which is very possible. There were a few super elementals, and we have been going at a pretty slow pace, but they released a new slime and super elemental at the same time. So that's fun stuff. Let's take a look at what we got. I guess we'll start things out in order, and we'll go with Aconia here. Costume Aconia was put at the top left for whatever reason. And let's get into it. So I do remember Aconia as being a somewhat limited character in her original release, one of the few characters that does a Fiend to one target. So let's see if they update that at all and see where they went with that. So first of all, we are switching over to Barbarian class. Barbarian's probably one of my least exciting classes in the game. The additional bleed damage it does is pretty minor. I don't know if I'd consider it overly exciting. Let's get into the family bonus. The Super Elemental family says the Super Elemental family makes teams of specific element stronger. This hero enhances the Dark element. 1 or more shields are enhanced to power gems. These power gems, you can have up to 5 of them, and 1 is converted each turn per the number of Dark heroes in your party. The power gem will deal 20 damage to a random enemy at the end. 20 damage to a random enemy when it is matched. And the power gems are matched, they will deal 10 damage to each enemy. Is that right? 20 damage to a random enemy each turn. That's what it is. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. 20 damage each turn in what I like to call the zappy tiles. I'm sure you've seen this when you go up against super elementals. You're getting zapped with like a colorful lightning. That's the zappy tiles that it creates. There can be up to 5 of them on the board for each color, and they are doing 20 damage each turn. Now, when you do put together a combination with those zappy tiles, they explode to do 10 damage to all enemies. 10 damage I always thought was kind of weird when they explode. It's almost like you want to keep them on the board instead, considering they're doing 20 damage a turn. Anyway, regardless, they're kind of interesting. I think where they are the most useful is in handling characters that you almost killed with attacks, or like fighters that pop up at 1 health. These tiles will oftentimes take care of those little annoyances for you. All right, so down here in the passives department, we are going to get a passive that says it is different for both attacking and defending. When attacking, troops will deal additional damage. So the extra damage against the weaker element specifically. So it only does the extra damage versus the weaker element, but it does do 150% increased damage. So that actually is really helpful. If you like to make color stack teams, let's say you run like 3-2, 4-1, or even like a full team of a single color, a super elemental is going to increase your troops damage by a significant amount, making those tile impacts much more potent. So it's a great thing to stack into those color matched teams. All right, and then on defense, it says that the amount of damage received from troops of the stronger element is reduced by 25%. So on defense, it's going to make your characters a bit tankier from troops of the opposing type. So interesting stuff. Okay, so over here in the Aether Power department, we do get damage reduction. Damage reduction is pretty nice. You just get a flat 10% reduced damage for the first 6 turns. And then we move down to our special. We will be dealing with lacerating letters. So I guess they're a postman or postwoman. Okay. Sure, lacerating letters. Summon a dagger fiend for the target and holy enemies. The dagger fiend damages its target for 200% attack each turn. The dagger fiend absorbs healing. It disappears after absorbing healing amount equal to 30% of the max health. When the dagger fiend disappears after it absorbed enough healing, the owner receives 1011 bleed damage over 3 turns. All enemies take plus 30% increased damage from status ailments and negative stacks for 6 turns. Okay, so all right, there's a few things to kind of go into here. It's very strange. So Aconia continues to remain a bit of a strange special. She is going to exist in the world where she's only doing 1 fiend to her target unless there are additional holy enemies. The holy enemies will also receive a fiend here. But that being said, that's what this special really does, right? It doesn't do like damage when it goes off. It doesn't do healing when it goes off. You are dealing with a specific attack designed to put a fiend on a single target unless there are additional holy enemies to also stick fiends on. Now, that being said, this Fiend does attack for 200% damage each turn. 200% damage for a regular Fiend is pretty high. In fact, that might be the highest damage from a standard Fiend in the game, so that will kind of act like a dot tick. But it is cleared by only doing 30% healing for the person with the Fiend. 30% is not that hard to get to. Like, most healers will be doing 30%. So one heal is going to clear this, and then once it is cleared, it is going to and then leave a dot on their target for, what was it? Like a little over 1,000 damage. Yeah, a little over 1,000 damage over 3 turns. So that means basically they'll get a dot that ticks for about 340 to 350 damage a turn for 3 turns. I mean, okay, that's, I guess, fine too. So this person will be doing some damage, but it's all going to be over time. Like, her Fiend is kind of going to act like a dot, and then even if you clear the Fiend, it's going to leave a dot behind that will continue to tick. So she's interesting as a damage over time style person. She also does another part of her special that says that all enemies receive the plus 30% increased damage. So that being said, let's say her dot was doing 340, you're going to need to add like another about 100 damage onto that for a 30% increase. So like 440-ish instead a turn, as long as her debuff of all enemies take plus 30% increased damage is still up. So, and honestly, I'm assuming that functions as a debuff on the enemies directly, but I suppose it could exist as a buff on herself. I'm not sure how they activated that mechanic, so whether it's dispelled or cleansed remains to be seen. I can't tell you that from this particular viewpoint. So if someone gets her and wants to clarify that in the comments, that would be amazing. But for now, it just seems like this character is kind of a weird oddball, right? So I don't want to say she's bad. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to rate her a 7. I think the fact that she functions primarily as a single target and in a weird way isn't necessarily making her anyone's favorite choice. But I will say this, if you like to stack colors and you pick up a purple super elemental, go ahead and stick her in a team with the rest of your purples, because your tile damage will thank you. And you can definitely push through some more effective color stacking abilities by having a super elemental within that team. So that being said, I am going to rate her a 7, but like if you stack her in a purple color stack team, she'll probably come through as like an 8 for you, just because of the additional help that she gives to her particular dark color. Okay, so that's really all there is to say about this. If you do like what I do, there's a little button bottom right. You can click that to find me easier in the future. I'm going to go ahead and move into a separate video for the slime. I always release them separately, so be on the lookout for that. We'll see you next time.